Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, a card first released within Chilling Reign, and this card has taken the competitive scene by storm. And in today's video, I show you guys my personal favourite and what I think the best deck list to build around this fantastic card is. Yo, what's up guys? Alien ESP here, back with another video. Hope you're all doing well, but as I said, as you saw with the title and thumbnail of this video, in today's video we're going over what I do believe to be the best Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax deck. Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax is a super powerful card. It's got a fantastic attack, inbuilt draw consistency, as well as that it can attach energies to your benched Pokemon, so it takes all the right boxes for a fantastic card. In this video I show you what I do think is the best deck for this card. Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax is such a powerful card, you can build so many fantastic decks around it. Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax itself is really just a skeleton, but the skin is really what you do surround this deck with, and there's so many fantastic combinations that you can pull off with this card, and I really do think I've found a really good one for this deck list. So without further ado, let's get right into it, baby. So here goes my Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. Just want to quickly show off my cute little deck box to take this to my tournament. I just think it's cute. Not related to the video at all or the list itself, but let's show you the cards. We have a League Stamp Quick Ball. I got a tournament there, but that is not the focus. Exclusive cards are not the focus. I'm about to show you guys my Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. So let's start with none other than the poster boy. I'm sure you're all familiar with this truly great card. I'll hold one at a time, then I'll show the count after. Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, first introduced in Chilling Reign. It's a phenomenal card. As you can see, its Underworld Door ability allows you to attach a Psychic Energy card from your hand to one of your benched Psychic Pokemon, regardless if it's a basic or not. And then you can draw 2 cards, and you are not limited to do this once per turn. So however many Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmaxes you have out there, you can do it. You got 4 on the field, you can do it 4 times. You got 2, you can do it twice, etc, etc. And its a max Geist attack fits that ability fantastically. 10 base damage, yeah, that's nothing. But then this attack does an extra 30 damage for each Psychic Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. This card is truly a powerhouse with inbuilt energy acceleration, draw acceleration, and a fantastic attack. So how many counts are we running? We are running none other than 4 counts, simply because we just want to abuse that ability as much as we can. Obviously that ability being Underworld Door, because as I did just mention, if we have all 4 on the field, we can do that 4 times, allowing us to accelerate an extra 4 Psychic Energies on the field, as well as that drawing an extra 8 cards, and that is why we have a count of 4. Now of course, in order to evolve into the Vmaxes, we need the Vs, so we do want 4 copies of the Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, and is actually split. So we want a run 1 copy of the promo card we saw in the Shadow Rider Calyrex V box. This card is very good. The first ability, Cloak in Shadows, 1 Psychic Energy, attach Psychic Energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So maybe you quick balled away a Psychic Energy, which you do want back, because of course you want as many Psychic Energies on the field as possible. Due to the max Geist attack I just showed you, you can get that energy back. But the main reason I do like running this is because of its second attack, being Hollow Binding for 2 Psychic Energy and 1 colour. Simply because 130 damage during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. This is really just an out to attack to Glaceon Vmax, because Glaceon Vmax's ability means it so it cannot be attacked by Vmaxes, however Vs can still hit it, and that is the point of having the one of the promo. The other 3 being the regular half art, or full art, or alt art from Chilling Reign. This is also very good. For 1 Psychic Energy Shadow Mist during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any special energy or stadium cards, also does 10 damage. That's pretty good for slowing them down, you know, stopping them from putting any special energy. Can stop rabbits like Urshifu for a turn, as well as that a stadium card can be very useful. So we have 3 of these and 1 of the promo. Astral Barrage, 3 colors energy, nothing too special. I don't really think you will do it, mainly because by the time you have 3 colors energy on this Pokemon, you want the Vmax out already, and that is why we have 4 basic Vs, 3 from the set itself and 1 from the promo. Next up, an alternate attacker so many people have gravitated towards this, known as Alchemy Vmax from Champion's Path, and we run a 2-run line of the Vmax, and we'll get to the Vs in a second. Let's get to its first attack now, Adornment. For each of your benched Pokemon, so deck for a Psychic Energy and attach it to all of that. If you have a full bench, that is an extra 5 energies on the field, allowing you to pump up a more an extra 150 damage with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax max Geist attack. But a lot of people enjoyed this attack in the form of G-Max Whisk. Discard any amount of energy from this your Pokemon, so it can be any of them. This attack then does 60 damage for each card you discard in this way. So you have all your energies on the field. Let's say in your Pokemon there's one more really tanky Pokemon left. Just discard them all, doing 60 for each. This is super powerful. You do have to discard. However, we do have some cards which do allow them to get them back from the discard. As well as that, as you can see with both Shadow Rider V and Vmax, is weak to darkness. So with Umbreon Vmax being a very big card, you do not want to hit that weakness. However, Alcremie Vmax gives you that other option. As you can see here, Alcremie Vmax is weak to metal. Now a lot of you guys may be like, metal is also a terrible weakness. Yes, I know Zacian is huge, but it does give you that other answer. You're playing against an Umbreon Vmax deck, or maybe Gengar Vmax coming out in the last set of this year being Fusion Strike. You can be like, okay, I'm not going to bring out my Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, at least for attacking anyway, because it has that weakness disadvantage. I'll go off the Alcremie Vmax, and then if you are facing a Zacian deck, you can be like, okay, Alcremie is weak to Zacian, so I want to bring out the Shadow Rider Vmax, and it really just gives you so many options. That is why I think another reason why this deck is so strong. Fantastic attacks all around, really good draw ability, energy acceleration, and so many ops to the different decks. Now of course, to have those 2 Vmaxes, we do in fact need the 2 Vs, so here they are. Nothing too special about the Vs, you know, you're not really using the Vs, simply are just there to evolve into the Vmax, sharing the same metal weakness, so it can be used in a deck which isn't a metal deck. You know, maybe you are facing a dark deck, you know, that as I did just mention, it can be used as an opt to try beat that, because let me tell you, if you didn't have these cards, it is a very big struggle to try beat darkness decks, for example, Eternatus and Umbreon, without something which isn't weak to darkness. So we do also, of course, run the 2 copies of the Vs just to evolve into the Vmaxes. Next up, we have a card I'm not seeing a lot of people implementing, however I do think we'll see it going forward. This is none other than the Esperon V/Esperon Vmax line from Evolving Skies, with a 1/1 line, simply because it is not used in every matchup. As I did just mention, the reason why I think this deck is so good is because it has so many ops to so many different decks. Now what happens if you come across in the mirror match? The mirror match, of course, being someone you're playing against is also using the Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. Well, essentially Esperon just dwarfs and stomps Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, which is its attack being max mind stomp. Not a lot of people using it right now, but I do believe when a lot of more videos using it do get out there, maybe this one will be the one and people realize how powerful this card truly is in the mirror match. Hopefully more people will implement it, because let me tell you, I really do think it could be a powerhouse. Its ability Solar Revelation, prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all of your Pokemon that have energy damage, not counting. Of course, that could be useful in a couple matchups. It stops damage counter placements with damage counters and damage being 2 separate things. You know, Drag Pull is becoming very popular at the moment, but the main reason you want it is for that max Mindstorm attack. 60 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. You guys have probably realised why this is so good. Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax wants to get damage on the board, and you essentially punish your opponent for putting damage on energy on the board. So this is so powerful. The V, I mean, Zen Shot's kind of cool, 6 damage to one of your opponent's V Pokemon, but realistically, Pokemon V have way more damage. You're not going to be KOing Vs like that anyway, and you really just want the V to evolve into the Vmax. You punish your opponent if they're playing Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax or another energy heavy deck. So yeah, it's very powerful. That is why we only have a 1/1 line, because it is only used in a very few matchups. Next up, a simple one used in most decks, a 1/1 of Crowbar V. The ability, I don't really need to explain this to you guys. Dark Acid, very powerful, reminiscent of Shaman EX we saw in the Roaring Skies, and I don't want to spend too long on this card because it is basically used in every deck in standard at the moment, because it is so powerful. Next up, Cresselia. Cresselia, just like Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, came around within Chilling Reign. However, this gold shiny one I do have came around in Evolving Skies, but the main reason we do use is, first of all, we'll go with both its attacks. Crescent Glow, search your deck for Psychic Energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. If you go second and it's your first turn, search your deck for up to 3 Psychic Energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Very powerful. A lot of decks right now are choosing to go first in the current standard format. That does give a big advantage. However, if you do lose that coin flip and you end up going second, this could be a good way to get in the lead, you know, because because that 3 psych energy really is powerful and it can put you in such a good position for beating your opponent. So if you do not manage to go first, which is personally my optimal strategy when going for this deck, you do have Cresselia in the deck to try get ahead of that, and I only have a 1/1 line of Cresselia because personally after my testing I found that is best, because realistically you don't want to be drawn into Cresselias, especially in the late game. Its second attack, Photon Laser for 2 psych energy, is also very useful. 30 damage base, but if you have an extra 5 energy in play regardless of the color, however basically this Pokemon will only be used in psych energy, it does an extra 90 more damage. This could be useful. A lot of you guys are like, what do you want to be hitting for 120? Well, if you are coming against the Decidueye matchup, that is very good. Decidueye, a lot of you guys remember, like, Decidueye isn't good and big at the moment. Well, basically, the way Decidueye works is when people forget about it, that's when it becomes good with stopping attacks from Vs and GXs. GXs have rotated, and Vmaxs do count as Vs when it comes to abilities like that. So this could be used as an opt for Decidueye, and as I've mentioned several times, that is why this deck is so good, guys. You've got all the good things, good attacks, acceleration, energy acceleration, draw power, as well as that so many opts to different decks, and Cresselia is one of them. You know, you have with this card here, this attack here, so Crescent Glow to allow you to get ahead if you do go second, or Photon Laser to go in against Decidueye, which is a very bad matchup for this deck if you do not have this card implemented, and that is why I put in a 1/1 of Cresselia, you know, mine being the gold shiny. However, the regular or pre-release version from Chilling Reign still does the job. Also, a brand new card in Galarian Articuno from Evolved, guys. This is a fantastic card. Psy Laser is okay, discarding all psych energy from this Pokemon, then allowing you to do 120 to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon, a weakness and resistance, not applying if it is a bench Pokemon, of course, but the main reason you want this is for Cruel Charge. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may put up to 2 psych energy from your hand to this card. This is very good, allowing you to get more energy on board. That is a running theme when it does come to Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. And of course Alcremie Vmax as well, with those cards not doing damage based off the amount of energy attached to them, but the amount of energy is on board. So this is very useful. Right now I'm only using the 1/1 of line. I've seen a couple lists floating around using a more heavy list. I've seen 3 at one point, which is kind of crazy, but right now I'm stuck with this 1/1 line. Maybe if it does get to the point where for whatever reason we need more on energy on board, then we may have to increase the count, but right now I think a 1/1 line is perfect, because you know, you don't need it, but it's a good thing to have if you have this card in hand, and as well as that, the extra 2 psych energy. But realistically, if you have those extra 2 psych energy, your opponent's going to underworld door it onto the field, because it allows you to put that energy on field as well as that draw 2 cards. But hey, you may want to use if one, maybe you don't have your Vmaxes out, or somehow if you had a really energy heavy hand and you've already underworld door for how many times you can during that turn, is a nice opt out. But that is all the Pokemon for this. Now moving on to the trainer cards, starting for the supporters. 4/4 line of Professor's Research. Don't need to explain why. Discard your hand and draw 7 is very powerful. You know, you got a bad hand or maybe no hand, it allows you to get more cards. Maybe you've been Marnied to a terrible hand, you know, this card is honestly fantastic. I shouldn't need to explain why. It's used in basically every deck in the format, just like Crowbar V. Marnie is also a fantastic card. As you can see, we've got the fancy versions, the Rainbow from Sword and Shield base, as well as the Premium Tournament Collection Box promo. Open it on the channel, make sure to check the video if you haven't already. But Marnie is also a super powerful card, shouldn't need to explain why, but if you're new, basically it allows you, if you have a bad hand, to get out of it by shuffling your hand, putting it at the bottom of your deck and then drawing 5 cards, as well as that, with that happening to your opponent, they take 4 cards, also slows them down. They've got a huge hand for whatever reason, maybe they've just been drawing load, maybe you mulliganed a bit, or they've taken a few prizes. It also allows you to slow them down, with them only taking 4 cards, unlike you who takes 5. It is a very good, and we have a 2/2 line. Next up, another fantastic card in the form of Boss's Orders. Cards like this historically have always done well. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. This is a fantastic ability, whether it be in a trainer or support card like this, or even an ability with some Pokemon we see Umbreon Vmax in some past examples would be Lycan Rock GX or Luxray Level X. Such a good way maybe you need to take that last prize card, and there was a Pokemon which will give you that last prize card on your opponent's bench, and it's weakened down a bit, but you can use this to gust up and kill it, and possibly allowing you to further advance your board state, or possibly even win the match. Super powerful. I'm sure you guys have heard all about this card because it is used in basically every deck. Next up, a card which isn't used that often, Sonya. I haven't seen much love for Sonya. I do think it is quite good if using the correct deck, and Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax is definitely the correct option for it. It allows you to search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon or up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them and put them in your hand, then of course shuffling your deck. Very good, you know, whether you be using it to get out your Pokemon, maybe you've had a slow start. Keep in mind it does have to be basic, so you can't get your Vmaxes out, or the main reason I've been using it for those extra energies, and it is 2 basic energies, so maybe you will either Underworld Door it onto the field, drawing you more cards, or hey, maybe you have the Galarian Articuno in hand, and you will then play that down and then attach the energies to it that way. That is also a very good mechanic, and this card does fit for those reasons I did just mention. Now those are all the supporters for this deck. Now let's move over to the item cards. 4/4 line of Evolution Incense, allowing you to search your deck for an Evolution Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. Maybe you haven't drawn into your Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, Esperon Vmax, Alchemy Vmax, but you can evolve this turn. The 4/4 does really just allow you to get that really easily, and it works so well with this deck and so many other decks, hence why it's so used. Man, I was a bit upset when Pokemon didn't make that gold Evolution Incense. They're probably a bit upset they never made a gold one because of how playable it is, and people would want it, let me tell you. Maybe in the future, who knows. This card is super powerful. Maybe you haven't drawn into the cards you want to evolve, well, if you've drawn into this, you've basically drawn into that card, and that's why we have a 4/4 line to essentially try and get that as much as possible. Quick Ball, another super playable card. Discard 1 card from your hand and search your deck for a basic Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. It's a fantastic card, honestly. You know, you want your Shadow Rider Calyrex V on the board, but you haven't drawn into it, discard a card which you may not need at the current time or for the entire match, depending on your what you're going against, and then get your basic Pokemon of choice. Maybe, you know, you want your Crowbar as well to draw into some more cards. This will also do the job, and just like so many other decks in the format, we have 4 copies of it. Next up, we have a card which is definitely very powerful in this deck, and I shouldn't need to explain why. Not a lot of decks use it just simply because of its focus. This is Fog Crystal, and we have 4 copies. Search your deck for Psych Energy or a basic Psychic Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. It's perfect for this. You know, it's basically an extra 8 quick balls if you want to go down the basic route, but it does have to be a Psychic Pokemon, keep that in mind. But as well as that, it also allows you to get a Psychic Energy, so maybe you don't have any Psych Energies in hand, however, play this down, get your Psych Energy, then Underworld Door it, or maybe you'll manually attach, or what, maybe Galarian Articuno. There's so many outs to this deck to attach your energy. That's why it's so good at the end of the day, and that's why they have a 4/4 copy of it to draw into this card as much as possible, because when you've drawn into this card, you've basically drawn into an extra energy or an extra basic Psychic Pokemon. 2 copies of Switch. We don't need much switch in a deck, you know, we don't need high accounts simply because there isn't much of paralysis or special conditions going around now with Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX rotating it. But maybe, you know, your Air Balloons isn't enough. Maybe you've got a card like Alchemy Vmax, which its retreat is over 2. Alchemy Vmax actually a retreat of 3, so that is very interesting, and you may want to use this because Air Balloon would not do the job. You'd still have to discard a Psychic or an energy attached, and you do not want to be discarding your energy with this deck. So this is a very good out to that. Or maybe your opponent has Tool Jammer and you need to get out of the active. This is why Switch is used, but we don't need a high copy of it simply because of the fact that there isn't a lot of special conditions going around. Ordinary Rod, allowing you to do one or both. Don't know why you wouldn't do both. I feel like you should always choose both, because why not? Shuffle up to 2 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck, or maybe both. Shuffle up to 2 basic energy from your discard pile into your deck. Very good. You know, maybe one of your crucial Pokemon you discarded with a quick ball because you had to. You can get it back with this. Maybe it's been knocked out, or maybe you need your energies, your basic energies. Who knows what your opponent's done? Maybe they have knocked out a Pokemon or crushing hammered them away. This gives you an extra out again just to get your energies and Pokemon back, and it's perfect for this deck. And we only have the 1/1 copy because after my testing, you really don't need any more in my personal opinion. Air Balloon, a fantastic card. The retreat cost of the Pokemon this card is attached to is 2 less. This is fantastic, you know, allowing cards to get in and out of the active so much more. You know, being able to strafe in and out is also fantastic and is so good, and is also great. It's also important in this deck with Underworld Door, Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax ability only attaching to bench Psychic Pokemon. So if the Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax you are currently attacking with is in the active. You need to get it on the bench for the ability to work, and this allows it again. But of course, you remember you can only retreat once during your turn, so if you're cheating it to the bench, you're probably going to want to switch to get it back into the active, and that's why this card is so good, and that is why we run 2 copies. Onto the stadiums now, the last cards before the energies. This really shouldn't surprise you. Maybe the first 2 won't, but I probably will have to explain the last 2. Training Core is fantastic, essentially an extra ordinary rod. Once during each player's turn, that player may put a basic energy from their discard pile into their hand. As I just mentioned, you want your energies with this deck. Of course, maybe an opponent has crushing hammered it away, or you might have discarded it with your quick ball for whatever reason. This allows you to get it back, and it essentially does what ordinary rod does, but of course to a smaller scale, and is very, very good. And of course, with this deck, with abilities being used very often with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, you do want to have something to counter Path to the Peak. I've seen a couple people using the Pump Kaboo line, but that just clunks up the deck so more. Having that one Pump Kaboo and then having these scoop up nets to get rid of it just makes the deck so much more clunky, and I feel like this does the job perfectly. Well, this isn't the only stadium cards that I have in the deck. I also do have 2 copies of Old Cemetery. Old Cemetery reading: whenever a player attach an energy card from their hand to one of their non-psychic Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on this Pokemon. Essentially, if your opponent isn't doing a psychic deck, you are punishing them, and this is so good. I've seen a lot of people online saying you don't really need this, but often after my testing, especially against the dark type decks, a deck you do have a tricky matchup against, this really does help. Putting that extra damage counters can close the gap between just being able to knock them out and knocking them out, because think about it, Eternatus needs 2 energy. You know, they attach that 2 energy, that is 4 damage counters, and then you need a lot less energy to knock it out, whether that be with Alchemy Vmax or Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, and it's honestly so useful, and that is why we have a 2/2 copy. Next up to the energies, you guys can probably imagine this right now, due to the nature of this deck with a thick energy lineup. To people has 13 energy with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax and Alchemy Vmax doing more damage for all the energies you have. You want to have as many out there, and you want to be drawing into them as crazy as much as possible, so that is why you need a thick amount of energies. Now that is why we're running 13, a lot more than the average deck does for sure. But yeah, that is all for me in today's video. You guys just saw what I do think to be the best Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax deck. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax is such a good card. I really do think there are so many combinations for this card. At the end of the day, this card is really a skeleton, and you can just put the skin around the rest of the deck around this fantastic card, because it has so many options. Yeah, rotation hurt a bit with the loss of Gengar and Mimikyu and Trevenant and Dusknoir. We do have so many other fantastic cards we saw on Evolving Skies, for example, Esperon Vmax, a card I really do think will help out the deck, as well as that Galarian Articuno. Will you guys be trying out this deck, whether that be in person and on PTCGO? I didn't want to include any gameplay. I wanted to make this video as short as possible. I'm going to stop rambling now. For comment question of the day, are you going to try out this deck, or what Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax variant are you going to try? Because realistically, if you're a player, I know you're going to experiment with this card at some time. It's so powerful, you cannot leave it. And do you think it is the best deck in the format? I certainly do. It's got so many things going for it. You know, the fantastic attack, the draw ability, the energy acceleration. What more could you want? And so many outs to different decks. Realistically, you can have such an easy time beating a lot of the top tier decks based off the Pokemon you do choose, being able to counter certain weaknesses, etc, and it is a fantastic deck overall. And I really do think I've hit the nail on the head with the deck list I showed you guys, and I do think it is the best deck list from at least what I've seen, but I would love to know what you also do think is the best Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax deck list. That is all for me in today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and also make sure to answer a comment question of the day. That is all for me in today's video. I'm Alien ESP. You guys have been the best. I mean the best here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.